Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. I am Jeff Blankenburg. Obviously, you know that. You're here on my channel. But I am currently in the process of building a Star Wars databank that I've been working on for a few months. And I've made some really good progress. I have a lot of data. And the point of this stream is just to give people a view into my development process, the code that I write, the process of working with Alexa, and a large amount of data. And so that's kind of really the goal of today. Sorry for that. So what I'm going to do is I've got a couple of things that I want to do before I get into the code. The first of which is to say that I'm happy to be back. I was in India for a week last week and haven't had much of a chance to stream. It's been a crazy first half of the year. I've been at a few events. I've been obviously in this trip to India. And for those of you that have been following this map next to me, I know a few people have asked questions. The first thing I wanted to do was actually put some pins in places that I've been. So I got to go to India, and the places that I went to in India were Bangalore, which is in the south end of India, and then I also went to New Delhi, which is in the north end of India. Put that right there. So those are two new places I've never been before. That adds a new part to the map. But in my travels, I also got to go to Qatar. I'm sorry, not Qatar. I got to go to Dubai, which is in the United Arab Emirates. So I'll put a pin there. And then I also, on my way home, got to go through Paris. And so somehow, I've been to Paris before. I went there when I was in high school, but I haven't marked that on my map here. So I'm going to add Paris to my map as well. So 4 new pins in just 1 week is pretty cool. I have most of the United States covered at this point. I mean, obviously there's large chunks there that aren't covered. But I've covered, like with this map, any city that I've been to specifically, I've got that covered. And so there's quite a number of cities covered on there. Anyway, so we've covered the map. You can also see that I've got this very nice elephant here. I was given that by a regular viewer on our office hours on the Alexa channel and here. And so I thought I'd add that to the backdrop. I don't know that it'll live there forever, but I've got some ideas on moving a few things around. But I thought it was a good place to put there for a little while anyway, since I just got back. So let's get into it. The first thing that I really wanted to do was talk about what the skill does so far. So we're back to Star Wars and thinking about all this. What I did just as a test is I wanted to see, this skill is called Star Wars Databank, and there's obviously a lot of copyright concerns with running that through certification. So I actually pushed this skill through certification late last week, and got a pretty quick turnaround on it. And they did a really nice job. They explained to me very clearly what I could and couldn't do. But on top of that, they also found some functionality that I had built into my interaction model that I hadn't written any code for. And so it was nice of them to identify those things as well. So what I need to do today is go through and fix and finish those things. So let's just get right into it. So I'm going to show you the skill as it stands today. There's a couple of bugs and a few things that I want to work on. But let's just use the skill. So Alexa, open Star Wars Databank. Let's try that again. Alexa, open Star Wars Databank.
Hello there. What else can I provide information about?
Tell me about Luke Skywalker.
You asked me about Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker was a Tatooine farm boy who rose from humble beginnings to become one of the greatest Jedi the galaxy has ever known. Along with his friends Princess Leia and Han Solo, Luke battled the evil Empire, discovered the truth of his parentage, and ended the tyranny of the Sith. A generation later, the location of the famed Jedi Master was one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries. What else can I provide information about?
Who plays Chewbacca?
Chewbacca is played by Peter Mayhew and Joonas Suotamo. I can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe, and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
Help.
I know everything about the Star Wars universe. You can ask about droids, like BB-8, or characters, like Obi-Wan Kenobi. You can ask about planets, like Mustafar, or weapons, like the Darksaber. There are lots of different species you can ask about, like Kawakin monkey lizards, as well as vehicles, like the T-16 Skyharper. Finally, there are organizations, like Kanji Club, and technologies like moisture vaporators. You can ask about any specific thing, or you can ask for a random item from any of the categories, films, or television shows. How may I be of assistance?
Show me the opening crawl from episode 4.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction, but ooh. Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now, thank you. I can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe, and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
Stop.
I can answer your questions about
Alexa,
people and places in the Star...
Stop.
Goodbye.
Okay, so we got a little quick tour through kind of what's going on there. I don't know why my camera is out of focus. I was trying to fix that, but it doesn't seem to want to cooperate. There we go. That's a little bit better. So you can see that we have some core functionality there, right? We can ask about characters. I'll talk about the data here in just a minute. But we have 600 something characters in the database at this point. We have vehicles and weapons and species and all sorts of other stuff, and I'll take you through that. I don't have all the data filled in, but I at least have all the records there, and so that gives me an opportunity to at least plod forward on the skill. I want to thank VoiceXP for joining. It's always good to see Bob. And Hawk2000, thank you for coming. Hopefully you guys will see some cool stuff here today, but if you have any questions or want to just chat about stuff, I love to do that as well. So with that, I'm just going to get into kind of what's going on here. I have my data table here, and this is using a service called Airtable that I've talked about many times before. But you can see here, if I go to actually show you my screen, you can see that I have tons and tons and tons of characters in my character list. I have 669 records according to this, and some of them have a lot of data in them, right? I've taken the time to fill them in. Others don't have as much. You can see that I don't have images, for example, Agent Tierney or Abrek, or as we go on, you'll see lots and lots more. I only have about 17% of my data actually has images at this point. This is another cool feature of Airtable, is that I can summarize my columns and see what's going on there. One of the pieces of functionality you may have heard me demo there was I want the percent empty of this. 96% of the actors, I don't know who they are, right? So as I go through this, I'll really need to fill a lot of these in, and I don't even have some of the major ones. This is a new piece of functionality that I just added. And so if I come into, for example, Luke Skywalker, let's find Luke under the L's, Luke. You can see that I don't even have the actor in here for this, so I'll change this to Mark Hamill. And now if I ask it about it, it'll be able to tell me that Mark Hamill is the actor. One of the other things I've been trying to do, and this is tricky, is to say who is male and who is female, so that as the skill talks, they can say he is or she is, or they are, I suppose, is an option for those that are unclear. But this is something that I still need to go through with a very fine-tooth comb. The problem is, one of the hardest things about building skills with this much data behind it is that just creating all of that data is really hard. There's a very nice thing called the Star Wars API. This is a third-party thing. This is not created by Star Wars or Disney, but it's called Swappy. Oh, it looks like it has been taken. Oh, no, maybe it wasn't. Let's do Star Wars API and see if I can find it. I thought it was .com, but maybe it's not. It's .co. So this is a really nice API that they've constructed. The real problem that I have with it is that you can see it hasn't been touched in quite a while. And so as the page will reference, it says from all 7 Star Wars films. You can see that here in the Google result. But if we get to the page, it's the same thing. And so it looks like there's a couple of other APIs out there trying to be a Star Wars API also. But they were unreliable, and one of the other things that I found is that they were built very much with web in mind. And so as I was building a skill for voice, I was very challenged to be able to have Alexa say some of the things that were coming out of this API. I didn't have any control over that. And so I haven't used any of their data or anything, but this is kind of what gave me the initial idea for what I should be using. And so if you look at what they have in here, like for a character, they have all sorts of stuff like height and weight, hair color, eye color, birth year. But this is stuff that you would show on a web page. There's no way I would ever say, like, I would never give you a description that included Luke's eye color. That just seems like too much for voice. So it's nice that there are APIs out there, but I've really found that I've needed to do something like this, especially for things like voice descriptions and card descriptions and screen descriptions. I have all these different modalities that I want to show data in, and I need the flexibility to do it myself. But that unfortunately requires me to generate a lot of this data myself. So, so with that, we have our character table, but we have this for droids as well. This is a list of every droid that's mentioned in any of the movies or TV shows, and you can see that there are quite a few here. I also have things like creatures. I have not finished this list by a long shot, but as we go into further things like vehicles, I'm about halfway done with this, and you can see that I have a good list of vehicles, at least a good sample set to work from. Weapons, the same thing. There's a lot of good weapons here, but not all of them by a long shot. And then I have things like technologies, which are things that aren't weapons but are interesting technologies from the Star Wars universe, like the Bacta tank. This is the tank that Luke Skywalker was in when he was healing after he got attacked by the Wampa in Episode 5. And then we have some things that are in the universe, like Han Solo's dice, the Boonta Eve Classic, which is the pod race that Anakin won in Episode 1, the Death Star plans. Like, these are things people might ask about, but they don't really fit into other categories. And then I have locations. These are mostly planets, but there are also temples and cities and any kind of setting where we may have had action in a Star Wars movie. And you can see that there's tons and tons of these, right? We've got a lot of data in here. I just don't have all the descriptions and everything filled in. That takes a long time. So that's one of those things that I work on when I'm sitting on the couch or whatever. I also have races. So you can see that we have lots of races of, or species of creatures. But human is certainly one of the items in this list. There are lots of humans. If I scroll out here to the right, you can see, this is by far the most filled in row is human. But you can see that I have a lot of characters that are assigned to different species depending on what they happen to be. And then finally, I have organizations, and these are groups that people may belong to. So it might be simple things like the Alderaan royal family. This would be Princess Leia, for example. I don't know if I have her in there, but like her father, Bail Organa, or her adoptive father anyway, is listed there. Again, I haven't gone through all of this data yet, but as you can see, there's all sorts of interesting groups that are listed here. And these are just organizations of people that have gotten together. So like the Jedi Order has a large group of people. Kanji Club is one of the groups that Han Solo runs into in Episode 7. So there's all sorts of different kinds of groups, and I thought it was interesting to kind of group them all together, and then of course you can ask about these things as well, like the Max Rebo band and all sorts of things, right? And then the stuff that I have left here is metadata. So droid type. These are the types of droids that I've identified so far, and the droids are assigned to these types if they have one. I also have media. So these are the specific media elements that I support. So we have Star Wars Battlefront 2, the Clone Wars episodes 1 through 9, Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Resistance, Rogue One, Solo, and the TV show The Mandalorian. And in here you can see that I have like a movie poster for each one. So if I open episode 4, that's what that one looks like. But if I open episode 9, for example, you can see that that one looks more like the traditional poster that we've seen recently. But I have a movie poster for each one. I have a trailer for each one, so you can come in and you can see. This is the trailer for episode 9, for example. And so I can play this on screen. But these are kind of fun to see and play with, so I won't go too far with that. But I have my own version of all the trailers, and then I have also the opening crawls for all the movies. So I'll do episode 9 for this again, but you can see that in this one, it starts with Lucasfilm, and then it goes to Star Wars, and then eventually you get the, I don't know if I skip ahead. All right, so we have the actual opening crawl, so if people want to see that, they can as well. So we have all of this data in here. Now, one of the things that I found, and I showed you there as we were working through the skill, is that I actually have an error when we try to show a video. And so that was one of the first things I wanted to work on, was figuring out why my videos are throwing an error. And so the way to do that first is to go to AWS CloudWatch, where my logging is happening, and let's see what the error is. One of the other things that I'm going to do is also build out an error logging system for myself. And I've already got most of the mechanisms built for this, but I'll show you how we can easily kind of record all of our errors for ourselves so that we don't have to dig through our logs, but we can just easily go to one central place and kind of find them. So if I scroll down here and we go to Star Wars Databank, let's look at our log from our most recent activity right there, and we can see that in here somewhere I should have some errors. Error handled. And this is on 242. So let's go dive into some code. And we'll look at line 242 and see what we come up with. 242 is right here. I have action query set to nothing, but I have action query defined as, why would I have action query set to nothing? If there is no crawl, I don't know why I'm doing that. That's interesting. So that's fine. I can make this a var because apparently I'm going to want to assign something to that value. But action query, for those of you that haven't been following kind of how I build skills, I have a speech database, and I have a table in here called action query. And these are things like, how can I be of assistance? What else can I provide information about? It's those trailing questions that lead the user back to, like, hey, by the way, we can do something else, right? And ultimately, I'll probably have 10, 15, 20 different things in here. But these are the things that are a reminder to the user that, hey, by the way, let's do something else, right? So that's the thing that I'm having an issue with here, and it might just be that I'm trying to assign action query to nothing, but I don't really know why I would do that. So let's work through my logic here, because I haven't worked on this specific part of the code base in a little while. So I have, if something resolved, that means that I've mentioned one of the media elements that I'm expecting. We talked about media, right? That's one of the movies or the TV shows or whatever. And then I'm getting the specific data for that media out of my database. And then if the device that the user is using supports video, then if there's data for the crawl, then I want to, I don't know why I'm getting rid of action query there. That's a very odd statement, because I don't use action query in that if statement. So I want to see down here at the bottom, I definitely have action query being used, and I'm not assigning action query anything else. I have this speak output, and I even tack on action query, and that's very odd that I would do that, because I would always need that at the end. So I think the thing that I need to fix is just commenting this line out. I really don't know why that's there or why I would have changed it. But what this should do is if the device has video and there's crawl data, which means it's one of the media elements that has a crawl, then I create some APL that will produce that video to the screen. If there is no crawl, then I can just say, unfortunately, there's only opening crawls for the 9 movies in the Star Wars saga. And then I say whatever they said. So maybe Battlefront 2 or Mandalorian or whatever. So I would say the Mandalorian doesn't have one. And then I would say, what else would you like to do, right? That makes perfect sense to me. And if they support APLT, which this is only supported on one device right now, it's the Echo Dot with clock, which has a screen on the front of it that shows the digital time. And I need to fix this yet. I'm not going to work on this morning. But if you have that specific device, then I actually take the crawl data, the actual text of the crawl, and I will scroll it across the front of the device so you can read it as it goes by. And then finally, if you don't have any of those things, you have no display capabilities, then all I do is take the words of the crawl, because I have that data. If I come back to my browser, I can show you that. If we go to my data table for media, you can see that I have voice crawl and clock crawl. This is probably not the right name. It should be APLT crawl or something. But for the voice crawl, you can see that I actually have the actual text of the crawl. And so this allows me to very easily say what the crawl is to the user, even if they don't have a device with a screen. Okay, so all of that is working fine. Um, and then this is my last case. Is they asked me for something that just does not match, and I don't think that's the name of a movie from the Star Wars saga, or I guess name of a movie from the Star Wars saga, or one of the television shows. Um, I'll just do that for now, or one of the television shows. This content all needs to be ripped out anyway. This will all be randomized in the database eventually. But now Action Query's back, so let's just push that and see if my video plays now. So we'll deploy that code to my Lambda. That only takes a few seconds, usually. There we go. So let's jump over here. Alexa, open Star Wars Databank.
Hello there. I can answer your questions
Alexa,
about people and places.
Show me the opening crawl for episode 5. Coding Bandit, good
I
morning.
can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe, and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
There we go. So I have my trailer, or my opening crawl playing. I just figured out, though, why I got rid of the action query. It played over top of my video. So let's see if I can get the focus back here. There we go. So this is episode 5. This is the one that I asked for. All of that is super awesome. Alexa, tell me about Chewbacca. Alexa, tell me about Chewbacca.
You asked me about Chewbacca. A legendary Wookiee warrior and Han Solo's co-pilot aboard the Millennium Falcon, Chewbacca was part
Alexa,
of a core
quit.
group of rebels.
Okay, so that was the issue, and now I just figured out why I have done what I've done. So I want to greet a couple people that have joined. Coding Bandit, thank you for joining. Good morning to you. And also Startup Senatena. I never am able to pronounce that word right the first time. But what's really funny about this is that Startup is the one that gave me this elephant. So I've got it sitting here in the backdrop. Thank you for joining, Startup. It's so good to have you here. It was so nice to meet you when I was in India. It's always a pleasure to meet Alexa developers from wherever, but it was very nice to be able to meet you in your home country because we've been talking online for quite a while. So that's super, super cool. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for joining. It's nice to be able to know the people behind the names sometimes. I think I did know that was your name, but I could not recall on the fly. All right, so here we are. We've got this situation where I have something I need to figure out because this isn't going to work. I have this action query, and the reason that this line was here was because when I play the video, it reads the action query before the video's even really started playing. And so that's not the behavior that I really want at all. And this was kind of a temporary stopgap that I had put in here because I didn't want it to play over top. The problem is that when the video's over, I'm going to have to add a trigger. So I guess we're going to do this for now. We're going to leave this because that kind of needs to happen. And then I need to leave myself a to-do because I need to come back here, add trigger to speak action query after video finishes. Okay, so I'll leave that in there for now because then it'll work just fine. But the issue that I'm going to have is that I'm not prompting the user to do anything after the video plays. And that's really one of the rules of certification is that if you're going to leave the microphone open, which I will be doing, then I need to actually say something to them. Okay. One of the other cool things that I've done, this is a fun little mechanism that I've built for myself, is that everywhere that I return values, right, so for speaking and reprompting and all the things that I would do, I have a change voice function. I'll explain that in a second. I want to answer Carrie's question here, Coding Bandit. Where am I pulling the video from? So they were originally pulled from YouTube, But I found that the YouTube videos themselves would not play just by directly referencing them. And so what I had to do is actually pull copies of them down, and I have them stored in an S3 bucket on AWS. And so that's where they live now. I can show that. So if I go to here, let's go to here, let's go to here, I can show you the stuff that I'm storing in my S3 bucket. So I have an S3, and I have one called Star Wars Databank, which is the thing that we're looking at. And in here I have open and crawl, and you can see that I have all 9 of the videos there. But I also have trailers. So I have trailers for every one of the things, including like Star Wars Battlefront, Solo, Rebels, Clone Wars, all that stuff. And then I also have sounds. This is going to grow substantially, but I have a lot of sound effects that I want to use for specific things. So if I ask it about Chewbacca, it will actually play Chewbacca speaking first, and then it tells me a little bit about Chewbacca. I'm also building a quiz game into this so that it can quiz you on, like, tell me who this character is. And it gives you a vague description, but doesn't tell you who the person's name is, and you have to guess what their name is. And so if you get that right or wrong, I have a concerned or a very excited R2-D2. So if you get it wrong, it sounds like this. If I can open it. So that's the, oh, you got it wrong answer. And then if I go back, the right answer sounds like this one. So nice little sound effects, but there's so many great sound effects libraries out there that have not only things like R2-D2, but lots of sayings from lots of Star Wars characters that I'm planning on trying to mix as much of those as I can in. I'd love to be able to have, you know, each character saying something, so that as I introduce a character, they'll say something. Like when you ask about Han Solo, I'd love for him in Harrison Ford's voice to be able to say, I've got a bad feeling about this, or, you know, something like that. Just some kind of like nostalgic quote from each character. So that's what the purpose of my S3 bucket is. So Startup asks, storing those MP3 files in S3 is chargeable, right? And it absolutely is. Yeah, I will have to pay money for using those files and the input and the output and the storage. But there's a fantastic program that is Alexa developer AWS credits. I can never remember the name of this thing. Promotional credits. And so I'll post this link for all of you, but if you go here and you apply, this doesn't take very long at all. If you've ever published an Alexa skill, you are eligible for this program, and they will give you $100 US every month as part of your AWS account. And so I have $100 basically to spend every month, and I'm spending none of it. And so I feel like, you know, you having some storage and putting some files here makes my skill significantly better and doesn't nearly cost me $100. So I would bet storing all that stuff I have there now is, if it's $1, I'd be amazed. But it's a very small amount of money and allows me to make my skill a whole lot better. So I would love to be able to pull from public resources like YouTube and things like that. No, there's no limit. I've had it running for almost 2 years. And I haven't seen any sign to the end of it. I think that this is a program that will probably continue for a long time. So I would highly recommend it if you haven't already signed up for this, getting $100 on AWS every month. You can use it for whatever you want. It doesn't have to be for your Alexa skill, but to get this, you have to have an Alexa skill to be able to do it. And I can show you on this page here that what they want to know is what your vendor ID is, first name, last name, your AWS account, so they can apply those things. But the vendor ID is your developer ID for Alexa, and so this is a very easy way for them to see that you have a skill published. So that's all you really need to provide, though, is some simple information, and then you'll hear back in a day or two. I don't know how long it takes, but I just got mine a couple days ago, so they just gave me my $100, which is really useful for a lot of the stuff that you're going to build on AWS. All right, I've gotten very distracted, but it's good. I love the conversation, so please don't stop. But I was talking about this change voice function. This is something that I built for myself over the weekend, and I think it's kind of useful, and I feel like there might be I've got to find a more formal way to do this for people, but if I scroll down to my function, which is down here somewhere, change voice, this one, what I'm doing is taking the speech that I was going to say, and I'm wrapping it in a voice tag, and applying a specific voice name. And then I can also do things like what prosody I want. But this is a very easy way for me to modify my entire skill with the voice that it's going to use, the speed that it types, all of those kinds of things. And this allows me to very easily make one small change, and boom, my skill is off and running. And so what's nice about this is that the voice value, the voice value that you see here, I'm actually storing this in my data. And so if I come into here, it's not that. Where did I put that value? Must be under speech, under voice. I have one record in one table, and I just have the word Brian. So that is Brian's voice that you heard speaking. Alexa, open Star Wars Databank.
Hello. I was expecting someone with your reputation to be a little older. I can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe,
Alexa,
and
stop.
even vehicles.
So, but if I do Russell, just by changing that value, now I can do Alexa, open Star Wars Databank.
Hello. How may I be of assistance?
Tell me about Chewbacca.
You asked me about Chewbacca. A legendary Wookiee warrior and Han Solo's co-pilot aboard the Millennium Falcon, Chewbacca was part of a core group of rebels who restored freedom to the galaxy. Known for his short temper and accuracy with the bowcaster,
Alexa, stop.
Chewie also has a Star Cup, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerve herder.
Okay, so I also have the speed mentioned, and so one of the things that I'm going to do right now is to do a, what do we actually call that property so that I have it correct? It's the rate. So I'm going to add that to my database as well so that I can easily change any of those just on the fly. So we'll call this rate, and I want a single line text. That's perfect. And we're going to do fast. And then in my application, yeah, that one talked way too fast. So that's what made me want to change it here. So I'm going to change this to be rate. And so then I need to go save that value. So the first thing we're going to do is declare it up here. So we'll do var rate equals nothing, or we'll do, what is the normal rate? I think I had that page open. The normal rate is medium, I believe. So we'll set my value as medium, wherever I did that. Oh yeah, code. So here I'm going to set the default value to medium, and that way if I don't have a value, it'll use medium, which is great. Having a default value is good. And then down here in my change voice function, wherever that went, I have rate defined there. And then down here, I need to grab the values out of that data table. So rate is going to equal polyvoice.records.fields.rate. And so this function gets called every time the skill starts up. Then it grabs these values. So I don't have to do it like, I don't have to do this every time that I'm trying to grab speech, because I might grab speech in multiple times within a skill. I can just grab this one time while I'm building, when I'm starting up my skill for each response, and it calls out and it gets the appropriate speech values. So I have now voice and rate, and I should be able to do, if I change my values back now, because I don't want Russell's voice, I want Brian's, but I should be able to do this interaction to interaction. So let's try that really quick. I need to update my code since I made some changes there. So let's push those out. Oh, I have another question too. I'm going to let Startup and Coding Bandit figure out the subscription stuff. That's super exciting though. Thank you for the subscription. Lord of Sound has a question. Welcome back from India. Pardon the drive-by question, but after you play a video with Video App Launch Directive, does control automatically return to your skill, or does the user have to manually exit the video player and then get your skill's control again? So my understanding is for the video app and for the music app, directives, it's actually handing it off to something else. But I feel like there is the skill will actually exit. But Voice XP has perfectly nailed this. So thank you, Bob, for doing that. The skill will exit once your video player ends. The workaround he uses is to tell someone a message before the video plays to say, like, when the video's over, say reopen to get back into the skill. But that is one workaround. But for the audio player and for the video player, you are actually handing it off to another process that does not do a handoff back. You have to ask the user has to know to be able to get back. So that's very, very cool. Thank you for adding that, Voice XP. That's excellent. Okay, so I've updated my code, and I just want to show you guys this work. So we have Brian and we have Fast here, and we're going to go back to my skill. Alexa, open Star Wars Databank. One moment. I have two devices listening. Alexa, stop. Okay, I'm back. Let's try this again. So, now I gotta turn this one on. Alexa, open Star Wars Databank.
IMA-L3XA, Human-Cyborg Relations.
Now I'm gonna change this to Russell.
I can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe, and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
Luke Skywalker.
You asked me about Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker was a Tatooine farm boy who rose from humble beginnings to become one of the greatest Jedi the galaxy has ever known. Along with his friends Princess Leia and Han Solo, Luke battled the evil Empire, discovered the truth of his parentage, and ended the tyranny of the Sith. A generation later, the location of the famed Jedi Master was one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries. I can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe, and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
Chewbacca.
You asked me about Chewbacca. A legendary Wookiee warrior and Han Solo's co-pilot aboard the Millennium Falcon, Chewbacca
Alexa,
was part of a core group of...
Stop.
May the Force be with you. Always.
All right, so the voice I really want is Brian at Fast. That's the speed that I like. Lord of Sound asked, what's the Aussie voice? Brian is the British English voice that I'm using, but the Aussie voice is Russell. And if you guys haven't played with these voices before, Alexa, Polly voices.
You asked me about Kaylee. Oh dear.
Alexa,
I know Kaylee.
quit. I think this is the list of voices. But Russell is the one that I was using for Australian, which is right here. There's Russell and Nicole. I always remember these because there's two famous actors, Russell Crowe and Nicole Kidman, that are Australian. So it makes it easy for me to remember that. I don't know if that's what they're named after, but it makes it easy for me to remember those two. But you can see that there's a long list of voices for all sorts of different accents and things. And they all will speak English, but they'll speak it with their local accent. So if I choose an Italian voice, for example, they'll speak with an Italian accent, but they'll speak English, and German and French and on and on. So there's lots of great voices to try and play with, and use the one that makes the most sense for you. And of course, you can always stick with Alexa's voice if you prefer Alexa's voice. So that is that. That's the voice list. I don't believe that with Alexa there is any cost whatsoever to use the Poly voices. And the reason that I say that is because you could build a skill that doesn't use AWS Lambda at all. You could not have an AWS account, and you could still use these voices just by using that simple tagging that I showed. So in my code here, if I go back to change voice, just by using this tagging, this voice name with the voice inside, just by tagging that in your SSML, you use that voice, but there is no cost. There's no account charging privileges on your developer account, and you could potentially do this without an AWS account at all. So no, there's no cost to do this whatsoever. All right, so that's now working. So I have my voices all set up and ready to go. I can change them anytime I want, both with rate and voice, and there may be other things that I want to add in here, but I don't think in a permanent manner I would ever want to change more than speed and the voice itself. Bill Semp, my goodness, thank you for joining. Happy Monday to you, and thank you for joining here. We're in the process of building a Star Wars databank, and I just went through the process of externalizing some values so that I can change the voice in my skill kind of on a whim without even changing any code. So I have a data table here that has the name of the voice that I want to use and the speed in which I want it to speak. And my skill, when it starts up, grabs those values, speaks in the right voice at the right speed, and we're off and running. So that's all good. So we have gotten through a couple of things so far. The first was that figuring out what that issue was with my video. I want to also check and see, because I think I do the same thing for video and for the crawl. So let's see if I did the same thing. So this was the crawl, and this was the specific line here that was causing us an issue. And we haven't solved it, but at least we've marked it so we remember that it's there. And then for my trailer intent, I have the exact same line here, you can see. So I'm going to want to remind myself to do that in both places. But I have to do a little research to figure out what exactly I need to do, because I haven't ever built a like video completed trigger for myself. And so I'm going to have to yeah, this is the issue, is the const versus the var. So I'm going to just add this here. I'm going to leave everything as is so that it works. And I think we're good for playing trailers and things like that. Yeah, that would be super cool too, is to be able to read the crawl. That's a much harder process. I'd almost have to create my own crawl video, or I would have to really work on timing very closely to get it to speak at the right moments at the right time. But I think that would be super cool, Coding Bandit. Thank you for that point. I don't know that I'm ready for that work yet, at least not until my database is full. I feel if I had all my other data, that's a thing that I could chase next. But I've got to get enough data in this database to get through certification. And once it's certified, then I can start being a little more flexible and free in some of the fun that I want to have. But I just want to get this thing done. So that's going to be a tricky one to take on before publication. But it would be easy to jump into after. Okay, I actually have a list of things that I want to work on. So let's take a look at the crawl intent and trailer intent. This was an issue that I was having. So I'm going to fix that. That one's done. Fix my invocation name, but use this as an example. So I'd love your opinions on this. I left myself a note to open up this skill. And I'll also show you, let's jump off of my email for a second. I'm going to go into my email. I'm going to open the certification email that I got from Alexa, from the certification team. Let's see if I can do certification. Find the actual email, because I want to show you the, yeah, here we go. Okay, so let's come back here. So you can see, I'll blow this up a little bit for you. Thank you for the recent submission. Your skill has failed the certification process. I expected this, so that's fine. Yes, Coding Bandit, the source code is available. I'll give you that so you can check it out while we're going here. It's on my GitHub here, and it is not starred for some reason. I thought it was. So Star Wars Databank is this one here, and I'll grab a link to that and post it in the chat here. It won't have the changes I just made, of course, but everything else is there. So I failed, and so the first one was, this skill fails for use of a third-party trademark brand. Of course it does. I'm using Star Wars. And it's because I have it in my invocation name. Now, that's not against the rules. I just have to be, as they say here, edit the skill so it's very clear to customers that your skill is not endorsed by or affiliated with the third-party trademark or brand Star Wars. To achieve this, I must do the following. I must remove the use of my third-party brand or revise the skill so it uses the brand in a referential manner that is not that does not imply sponsorship, endorsement, or ownership. So the first thing that I really need to do is think about my invocation name, which, if we look at my code, is here. It's called Star Wars Databank. So I can certainly understand how that appears to be like an official thing. And so I'm certainly going to have to change my name, but I don't want to because I really like this name. So I have to figure out how to fight this one. Because I know I'm going to have to change my name. I'm not trying to break the rules. Oh, this is a really good question, and then we'll get back to my vacation name. Will certification hold a multimodal app if it doesn't work right on one Alexa device with a tiny round display, like the one behind you? He's talking about the Echo Spot, this one right here. So it's going to be impossible for me to get my game to fit on that display. It was meant for Echo Shows and Fire Stick and cubes. So Lord of Sound, here's my recommendation. If your game or your skill doesn't fit well on the small round screen, you can, using APL, make some indication that, by the way, if this is the round screen, which you can check the screen shape and size, if it's the round screen, then don't provide any APL. And if you only provide the visual stuff for the Echo Show and the Fire Stick, I think that's perfectly fine. Because your game should be able to operate in a voice-only manner too, right? I would assume that's the case for you, Lord of Sound, is that your skill does work on an Echo Dot, for example, just fine. But it is greatly enhanced on the Echo Show or Fire Stick. Is that an accurate statement? In the meantime, while I'm waiting for your answer, I'm going to jump into thinking about what my name could be here. It's a card flipping game that won't work on the spot. So this also wouldn't work on the Echo Dot, for example, right? Like it wouldn't work in a voice-only manner. You can't play this game without seeing something. Is that a reasonable assumption? That may be your issue then. And I haven't seen your certification feedback, but in general, every Alexa skill has to have a voice-only experience. And maybe you're providing that in some way, but that's more likely, my guess, with your issue than it is that it doesn't work on the Echo Spot. I think it's more likely that you're not providing a situation in which the user can use the skill with only their voice. You have to remember that the majority of Alexa devices today are voice only. I mean, there are a lot of Echo Shows out there, but not nearly the number compared to like Echo Dots and Echoes and things like that. So that seems more likely the concern that certification would have, because every skill needs to have a voice only experience. But I don't know enough about your game to think about whether it's even possible to do that with voice, where you could say, oh, now you have 2 jacks, a queen, and a 4. If I switch to a voice-only quiz, a completely different game, a completely different game, will that work? I mean, yeah, if there's a voice-only experience, then you should have no problem. And Bob, Voice XP, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of devices out there with screens. I'm just saying that for certification for Alexa, you have to have a voice-only experience. I agree, but what Alexa is meant for is not the same thing that tablets are meant for, right? There's a lot of very graphically intense things that we can do on a screen, but we can't assume that people have screens, and nothing about the store or anything indicates to a user that when they use this skill that they're required to have a specific device. We're trying to avoid that specific scenario. So you can build a cool, graphically rich experience, but you also have to be able to support voice. You have to be able to provide a situation where the user can use your skill with only their voice. And it may not be the best experience. It may be a less optimal experience, but they should still be able to try and do it. I've been actually thinking about building a simple video poker game that allows you to play video poker, right? You have 5 cards. Okay, I have the jack, the queen, the whatever. Okay, get rid of the queen and get rid of the 4. And see if people could play video poker with just their voice. Again, without seeing any of the cards. They only have the canvas in their mind, if you'd like. So this is certainly a tricky problem in voice, but you have to have a voice experience to supplement, and then all of the visual stuff is supplemental. Okay, so I have to come up with a way to make it seem like my skill is not officially endorsed by Star Wars or Disney or whatever, which is fine because they don't. But the thing that I got hung up on here is that I went and looked for other skills. And there's this skill here, which has 36 reviews, 4-star reviews. That's good. It's a simple trivia game about Star Wars. And their invocation name is Trivia Game for Star Wars. This bugs me because this does not indicate that they don't have affiliation to Star Wars. This doesn't indicate that anywhere in here that they're not like supported or taken care of or produced by Star Wars. And I don't want to take anything away from this person. They've done a great job building a trivia game for Star Wars. But, yeah, I don't know. Databank. So, okay, so I can call mine Databank for Star Wars. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is here. But I think we're going to give that a try. We'll try and follow their pattern, which is Databank for Star Wars. It's a much worse name, but we'll do that. And we'll push all this stuff up. It's kind of fun that there's a force command on the ASK CLI when I'm building something for Star Wars. It's fun to feel like I'm like using the force to get my code to go where it needs to go. Yeah, so Lord of Sound, I think the for the might be the issue. I don't know, but again, it doesn't cost me anything to push it through certification. And then if they fail me for that again, then I can argue and be like, but you have skills that have names exactly like this. And my hope isn't that they'll take that skill down. My hope is that they'll realize like maybe they're being too strict or clearly there's a precedent for this. I don't know. And the nice thing is being an internal employee, when they fail me, now I can push on them internally and be like, look, guys, you got to be consistent here. Because I'm certainly aware of times when certification has gone poorly. Hey, I'm going to jump off my screen again for a second. I just got a question about how long this took. So I want to go back to my email, and let's see if we can actually find the time that I submitted. We'll just do this. It's just my email, right? How bad can that be? So this is when I submitted it. This was on February 13th at 12:10 p.m. This is all Eastern time. So we'll just call that noon on February 13th. And I got my certification feedback, 17 hours later? So February 14th at 5 a.m. So yeah, it was about 17 hours of total turnaround for the review of this skill. Now again, it's not complicated. I have some data. There's no in-skill purchasing. There's not a lot of complicated APL, and the APL was broken. We'll actually see that in the rest of my certification feedback here. So we've talked about this one. The skill fails for use of third-party in my invocation name, third-party trademark and brand. Number 2 was that skills which reference, replicate, or otherwise create confusion between Alexa and a third-party skill are not appropriate. This may still be an issue for me because I am saying things like, I am AL3XA, Human Cyborg Relations. And so now that I'm not using Alexa's voice, which is one of the reasons that I'm not using Alexa's voice, this may help me solve number 2, because I do say I am AL3XA, which is meant to be a clever play on C-3PO and how he introduces himself, but I think that one's solved. For help, I know I've solved this one already. The skill does not return a help prompt that instruct users on how to navigate further. And so if I come back to this table, and we go to help, you can see that I now have help content that looks like this. And it's very lengthy, but it tells them about all the different things they can ask the skill. And then they can also ask for like random items. So they could just say, give me a character or give me a weapon or whatever. And they can learn about stuff that they haven't already learned. So that is that. So I have the help content part solved, and I just lost my browser, so let's get back to that. And then number 4 was when invoking a skill with one or more intents, the skill's response is irrelevant. So yeah, so this is my error message. You can see this here. So they were asking for the crawl intent, which was broken. and they were getting my error message, which is, oh, we had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine. And the session remains open. And then they found the same thing for my actor intent, which I hadn't even built yet. And so that was an error that they were receiving. So I figured it out for the trailer intent, for the crawl intent. Those are both solved now because I was trying to assign a value to a constant, which obviously is a no-no. And then my actor intent wasn't working, and now it is working. And so I can say, who plays Savage Opress? Let's see what happens if I say that exact thing. Now I've changed my invocation name. It's now Databank for Star Wars. So Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello there. What else can I provide information about?
Who plays Savage Opress?
I don't seem to know the actor for Savage Opress. I've asked my data manager to investigate. What else can I provide information about?
Who plays Chewbacca?
Chewbacca is played by Peter Mayhew and Junus Swotomo. What else can I provide information about?
Quit. So you can see now that I handle situations where I don't know the answer. So for Savage Opress, if we go to my data here, and we go to characters, I do have a record. I could do find Savage Opress, but you can see that I don't actually have any information about this character yet. I haven't filled it in. This is something that I've had to be very careful about as I build, is that I know I know all the characters, but what I don't know is all of the data that I need for them yet. I haven't filled any of it in. So this is something that is going to come with time. It's just a lot of data to go gather and play with. The Lord of Sound jokes, I should ask who plays Baby Yoda. I do, however, have that in here. So it right now is listed as, it's under T. Somewhere. It's listed as the child. And if we scroll out here, you can see that I do have Baby Yoda as a synonym for this. So I can ask who plays Baby Yoda, but it won't know the answer to that because I haven't filled it in yet. In fact, let's fill that one in. Who plays Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian? Because it's a puppet, I'm not sure. Let's see if this tells us anything. So he's mostly a puppet, but it's also CG. But someone's playing the voice, right? Portrayed by several puppeteers. Doesn't seem like there's any reference, at least in here, as to who plays him. Lord of Sound, the answer to your question about how many characters do I have, I told you I have all of them. It's 669 characters that I currently have. This is every character that I've been able to find that is in any way referenced in any of the movies or TV shows or the game Battlefront 2, which is considered canon, I guess. So those are the things that I've focused on, and these are literally, I've gone through as much as I can to find characters, and I have all of them here. And so I obviously have to fill all this data in, but it's nice to be able to have at least all the records here, and then I can go through and fill all the things in, like, you know, what species are they and what things have they been in, right? So because I don't know that for a lot of these things, but for the stuff that I do know, if we go back to the child, you can see that I have him tagged in The Mandalorian. We don't actually know what species this is. They haven't ever told us. So it's right now it's referred to as Yoda's species, which isn't good enough for me, so I haven't added it. And we also know that Mandalorian is not a species. It is it's a religion. And so I don't really know how to define what someone that, like the character of The Mandalorian, I don't know how to define what his species is. Maybe it's just human. But there's things like that I need to dig into as well, right? So lots and lots of things to figure out as I go through all this data. But it just takes time to sit down and, like, you know, spend an hour going through and adding a bunch of metadata to all of my characters. But my goal eventually is to fill all this in. So that's my database for just characters. We also have droids, which I consider separate. So there's lots and lots of different droids that are mentioned. I've got 70 of them. There's probably more than that. Same for things like locations, right? I've got 142 different locations that we've seen in all of these places. Restaurants and planets and all sorts of crazy stuff. And so if I look at Cloud City was in appearances. Cloud City was in episode 6. 6? 6. No, 5. But Cloud City was also, I believe, in Solo, but I don't know that for sure. So those are things that I have to go back and validate, which is why I leave them empty, because then I know I haven't checked them yet. So, man, there's just so much to do. Okay, so that's the data problem I'm having. But the other thing that I need to fix then, if I go back to my to-do list, was to fix my invocation name and use this as an example. So I'm not going to say this is done yet because I don't know if they're going to let me pass. And then I have this random item intent. This is the last thing that I'm going to work on today. It'll probably take me a good amount of the rest of time we have left. I have about an hour that I was dedicating to finishing this. And so if I come back to my code here, I already have this intent defined, I think. Yeah, give me a random item. And so this could either be a type, which is like give me a character or give me a droid or something like that. But it could also be give me something from episode 5, right? I just want to know about a random thing. And so you can say a type, like character, give me a random character. I should add another item to this list, which is, if I could type, this would be glorious. Give me a type, comma, okay. So this list will have to expand, but basically you can indicate a type of data that you want or a specific media item that you want. So this would be a movie or a TV show. And then I will go grab something for you that comes from the thing that you asked for. So I've updated that. So we'll just push that stuff back up again. But I have this random item intent, and I have slots named type and media. So we're going to have to be able to catch those things. So in here, I think that I started building this. I don't remember, though. Trailer intent, crawl intent, quiz intent. This quiz intent code lives here, but I haven't actually used it yet. So let's look at the top. Just make sure I haven't already built this. So this is my launch request. This is the one that gives you answers to things. That's the big one. Actor intent, media item intent. That's kind of the thing that I want it to be. So we're going to call this random item intent handler is what it's going to be. And that was, what was my intent actually called? Because it should be called that. Random item intent. Perfect. Okay, so let's change this to random. Okay, so this will land in the right place. The last thing that I need to do just to make sure this works is to go down to the bottom and change the random. Okay, so I have my handler mentioned. Let's go to the definition for that. So I have my handler, and the first thing that I need to do is grab those two values. So what I like to do is I have a couple of functions that I've built for myself, which are spoken words and resolved words. And we're going to use this a couple of ways. So I guess we can take action query also, because we'll need that when we're done. So in here, I'm just going to take this. I don't really care. We'll just use var for everything. Lord of Sound asked a question: does anyone here use the SSML builder package for their SSML? I'm still making my own by hand. I'm not using any builder package. I tend to just roll my own as I need it. So that's a good question. I don't know what everybody else is doing, but when I use SSML, I do it by hand for sure. Okay, so let's talk about spoken words, resolved words, because it's not just words anymore. Now this is going to be spoken, type, and resolved type. And we're calling the type slot. And then down here, we'll do it again. And this will be spoken media and resolved media. And this will be the media slot. So what I'm doing here, I've built some helper functions for myself to just make things a little easier. But what these functions do is when the user speaks to your skill, they in the JSON that is delivered to your skill, there's a slot value, and it tries to show you the word that the user said for that specific slot. So that is what my get spoken words method gets, and it returns undefined if it doesn't find anything. And then get resolved words, this is a list of values that I already have in my slot, and it returns to me the array of values that it thought were a close match for the value that the user spoke. And so these are both really useful because I may need to be able to say back to the user the words they said to me. But the resolved words list gives me a list of my slot values that Alexa thought were a good match. And so these are the ones that I will generally use as my reference for looking it up in my database, because it'll have the right spelling, I have record IDs, I have all sorts of other stuff stored in there. So if it's undefined, that means I didn't find a match, which is also fine. And so we're going to need to build a little bit of logic here to be able to figure out exactly what we want to do. So if they gave us a type, then we're just going to jump into the table of that type and retrieve a random value for them. I think eventually I'll also want to be able to keep track of what a user's seen so that I can bring them random things that they've never seen before. But with 600 some records, it's unlikely that they'll hear repeats, at least for characters. But for some of the other things, when there's only 10 or 20, I don't want them to continue to hear the same things over and over. So I could keep track of what they've actually seen. That's a lot of data to manage, but by doing that, I would be able to always grab them something they hadn't seen before. Again, that's a future feature. For now, we'll just go ahead and... oh, I like this Lord of Sound. Actually, I have a fun story to tell about motion detecting in my office. So before we write this code, let me tell that quick story. So what Lord of Sound has said here is when you approach the garage door to open it, as you're detected by a Echo Flex with a motion detector, you have to answer a Star Wars question or it won't open the door. I love that. I mean, there's some complications to doing that specific thing, but it's a very cool idea. But the thing that I have set up is I have a smart switch here in my office. And for as motivated and as energized as I am to do a lot of this stuff, I will freely admit that I'm also one of the laziest people on earth when it comes to mundane tasks. And so in this office that I'm sitting in, I have a ceiling light that I would like on when I'm in the office, and I would like it off when I'm out of the office. So my initial idea was I will set up a motion detector, and when it notices motion, it'll turn the light on, and when it stops noticing motion, it'll turn the light off. But if you've ever sat at a computer for any extended amount of time, you know that motion detectors often will not notice you because you're just sitting there only moving your fingers, which may or may not be in sight. And so my smart switch, I can just ask Alexa to turn the light on and off, but even that is kind of annoying and mundane. And so what I've done instead is I have a smart switch, but I also have an Echo Flex in this room with a motion detector. And so when it detects motion, it turns the light on for me. But I don't have any mechanism right now to turn it off because then it'll turn it off. So what I find is oftentimes I will notice that the light is still on, like in the afternoon or evening after I've left work. And I can just say, Alexa, turn off office. And the light just went off. And it'll turn it off. So it doesn't seem to be a chore for me to turn it off. But I find that coming into my office, it's kind of annoying to always ask Alexa to turn the light on and do stuff like that. So now with this motion detector, I have a routine set up that will automatically turn the light on for me when I walk into the room. Alexa, turn on office. So it brightens the light up, the room up just a little bit, but I also have a very bright light sitting in front of me. Oh, which is the motion detector? Yeah, I can show you that very quickly, and then we'll write some code. So if I go to Amazon and Echo Flex is the name of the device. So it's this simple little device here, the Echo Flex, and then usually when you search for that, you'll find the other two accessories right below it. And so this motion detector here, which is actually made by a company called Third Reality, but they're the only ones that make an accessory for the Echo Flex currently. But this is a very simple motion detector. And then you can use the motion detector to set up a routine, and that routine will be triggered by that motion detector. So yeah, thank you, Lord of Sound, for adding that. Sorry, Bill, I did not mean to trigger your office. I didn't realize that we'd have namespace collisions between our houses. My apologies. But that's pretty funny. Okay, so that's the motion detector that I'm using, but I just wanted to tell that quick story since Lord of Sound brought it up. All right, so back to our code. So we now have some values here. If they indicated a type, then we'll use that. If they indicated media, then we're going to need to come up with a type. So I'm going to have to randomly grab my types. And so what's really nice about this is that I have, so if, let's do this. If spoken type equals undefined, then get spoken words and get resolved words. These are functions that I've created myself. They are not built-in functions at all. I can show you what they look like. They're very simple, but all it does is iterate through the entire chain of things, using the slot name that I passed in, and then it either returns to me the slot value, or it returns undefined. And the same is true. And you can find this in the. There's a link a bit earlier to the repo if you want to use these. But the same thing goes for get resolved words. I go into the resolutions and I grab the values and return that array. Otherwise, I return undefined. So that is how that works. So I was back up here somewhere. Yeah, this one here. So if spoken type, how do I want to do this? I'll probably need a value that is just like type, and it should have something by default. So I'll just assume character. And then in here I can say if it's not undefined. No, I don't even want spoken type. What I want is if resolve type equals undefined. No, I don't really want that either. How do I want to do this logic? Let's think about this. If they've given me a type, then I want to use that type. Lily Hazel, thank you for joining. Good morning. If they've given me a type, so if resolved type doesn't equal undefined, then I want my type to equal resolved type 0. Dot name. Sure. I don't think that's right, but we'll give it a shot. And then, so if resolve type doesn't equal undefined, that means I've resolved to a specific type, then my type equals resolve name. Else, which means it does resolve to undefined, then type equals get random item. And this is going to be whatever I've called this array at the top. Oh my gosh, I called it types. I love when things just come together. So we'll call this types. And then it looks like that. So if I have not received a resolve type, then my type equals the thing that I resolve to. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to get a random type and use that instead. So I think that's enough logic for my type, because the type is the character or the droid or the whatever. Um, let's see. So I think that gives me the type, because I'm going to need that every time no matter what. And then I'm either just going to grab it randomly from the table, or I'm going to grab it randomly from the table with criteria around which media it was a part of. Okay. How do I want to do this? I have a couple of ways I can go about this. So the first one is going to be, now that I have a type, if resolved media doesn't equal undefined. So this means that I've resolved a media type. Probably going to need some brackets for this one. And then if I haven't, and this is what's going to, I'm going to create basically a filter statement that I'm going to use against my database. So if I have resolved media, here's the real question. What do I want to get back? What is the thing that I really just want to get the individual record? I'm not doing a good job of explaining myself, so I need to explain kind of how I'm thinking about this. So I can pivot this a couple of different ways. This is my character table. Let's use something that's a little simpler, like the weapon table. It's a little shorter. So I have the name of the record here, but ultimately what I'm going to need is the whole thing. And I have an image for it. I have synonyms for some of them. I have speech descriptions and all these things. But this appearances one, this column is the one that I really care about. So the first thing that I could do would be to grab all the records in a table that have the specific appearance that I'm looking for. So maybe it's episode 5 or Clone Wars or whatever. That would be one way to do it. I would just grab the records that I want, and then in my code I could randomly select one of them and present that to my user. But the other way that I could do this is by going to my media table every time. And in here I have columns for all the things. So this would allow me to go to the media table. I feel like going this way, I have to make a second call to the database. Because the one thing that Airtable doesn't do for me is like a join, where I could bring back a bunch of the data also. All I would get if I pull from this table is like the record ID. Let's see if I can show one of those. So there's a record ID, which happens to be this. But it wouldn't bring me back all of the other stuff. I would have to make a second call to go get all of that. So I think I'm just going to make a call to the specific table, grab a random selection of things that match the media that I want, and go from there. Let's see. So if I have media defined, well, I guess it doesn't matter in either case. But what I really need is a good example of... I have a bunch of helper functions out here. Maybe I've already written this. Get specific data by ID. That's not what I want. Get random item by category. Oh my gosh, this is the thing I want. Okay, so I have a function here. Oh, did I really already build this? This is amazing. Okay, so it looks like I've already built a thing where I say look in this table for items that... How did I already do this? Okay, this is awesome. Okay, so we just need this function. I'm going to take that function name. I need to pass it the name of the table, which is my type. And the media, if it exists. So I might need to change this a little bit, but I think I'll just have one that takes media and one that doesn't. No, I don't even need to do that. I've got it here. If media isn't undefined, then add the media, otherwise don't. Oh my gosh. Okay. So great. I love previous me. It's the best. So in here, I can just say, oh my gosh, this is going to make life so easy. If there's media, and now I don't even care if there's media resolved, because I can just pass it or not pass it. No, I'll do it responsibly. Okay, so I need to get my random item. So we gotta have another thing that's empty. Var item. And item here is going to equal get random item by category, where I'm going to pass in my type. And in this case, it will be resolved media 0 dot name, I think. Well, I guess we'll just test this and see if it works. And then for this one, otherwise it will be I don't know if I can do that. We'll see. So that is there, and that is there, and then the last little bit, shoot, see, this is the thing that I'm going to be bothered by. I have a bunch of code here that is like, if there's an image, I show an image. So how am I going to do this effectively? Because it's starting to feel like this code, like now I'm going to try and make a copy of this, which I don't love. There's never a time I won't find what they said, which is good. So I won't have to say things like, I know this is a person, but because I won't have to do any of that stuff. And I won't want to say you asked me about because they didn't ask me. I selected for you a specific thing. So I'm going to take this. And then if there's an image, great. If there's a card, great. So I guess we could just take this chunk. And I'm going to modify it enough that I feel justified in copying code. I hate copying code, if you guys don't know that about me. But I think we're going to be okay here. So we're going to dump this in here. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is I selected, I have chosen this will be nice. I've chosen the type. That's what this is going to go here. I've chosen the character or the droid. I've chosen the droid. I have chosen a type for you. I have chosen a droid for you. And then I guess I would say, no, I don't want any of this. This needs to be I just get rid of that. And then I say description, and then I say action query, which I don't. I do have an action query. That's good. Okay. I have chosen a droid or category, or I'm sorry, character or whatever. I've chosen a character for you, and then I just start reading the description. But at least I'm like parroting back to you and saying like, oh, you asked me for a character. I have chosen a character for you. So if I were to say, give me a random character, it would say, I've chosen a character for you. I'll need to randomize this speech, but I think that's a good start. Okay, and with a description, whatever, and then I can do all of that. If there's an image, and if not, do the card. Excuse me for yawning. There's a piece that I'm missing here, which is still that I need item. And this is going to be item dot fields dot voice description. I'm not even sure that's right. Let's make sure I've got that properly figured out as well. So if I think about all of these have the same field names, but I have voice description. You can see that for any of these I have voice description as one of my fields, and that's the thing that I care about. So that's good. So if item.fields.image, all that looks beautiful. And so then I've speech. That's the speech object that I've created. Oh, and I'm going to need to mangle up my RB here. So we're going to turn this into a thing up here as well. Our RB equals, whoop, go away. So now I can do the RB with standard card, RB add directive, and I can do return RB dot speak dot reprompt dot get response. Okay. There's almost zero chance this works on the first go, but we'll give it a try and see what happens. Fingers crossed, everybody. This should work. What I don't know is like this chunk in here where I had the if statements and this resolution stuff. What we're gonna end up doing is like diving into some logging because I'm sure I broke something there. Let's make sure the skill works first. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
There was a problem with the requested skills response.
Cool. Broke the skill entirely. That's always really fun. So let's go look at that first. And wait for that to finish. Await is only valid in an async function. You're not kidding about that. So where did I do that? You're going to give me the error? You're not going to tell me what line it's on? That would be too easy. Okay, what changes did I just make? I'm sure it's the fact that this right here needs an async tag. Because I'm making an await call right here. That's got to be it. Let's try that again. It's Baby Yoda's fault, for sure, Lord of Sound. That's a no-doubter. I can't wait for Baby Yoda to show up. I've pre-ordered him. He'll be here in May, I think. I can't believe how long it's taking to get, but Baby Yoda will be here eventually. All right, let's try that again. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello there. How may I be of assistance?
Give me a random character.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction, but ooh. Everything's
Alexa, stop.
perfectly all right. May the Force be with you? Always?
Yes, Lord of Sound, there will be a Funko Baby Yoda coming soon in May. I actually have a box of 6 of them pre-ordered because I've been selling a few online and doing okay doing that. And I know that's going to be a popular one, so I ordered 6. Okay, let's go look at our logs and see what I did wrong this time. Like I said, I wrote a lot of code without a lot of debugging, so speech is not defined at 187. See, this time you give me my line number at least. So speech, I've chosen a type for you, but I haven't defined speech before. All right, let's do this. Boom, declared. Guess I can't plus equal on something I'm defining. I don't even really need this, so let's just change this. Because this is the value that I prefer anyway. Speak output. So I have speak output. Do I add the speech anywhere? Doesn't look like it. Do I pull speech in anywhere? Not finding any errors. Let's give that one more go. These are just simple little... Lord of Sound, that's a really good question. I don't... This is my own magical way. If the log is open like this, where I'm actually looking at it, and then I use the skill again, as long as this is still open, it creates a new record for me. At least it seems to. I don't actually know the logic behind this. This has just been my personal experience. But if I come back here, let's make sure that's done. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello there.
Alexa,
What else can I provide?
give me a random droid.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction, but ooh.
Alexa, stop.
Everything's...
So
Never tell me the odds.
okay, I won't. Let's look at our logs again. So now when I back up, there's a new entry at 31. So I don't know if it's because it's open. I don't actually know the reason why I'm able to get this to happen every time. So error handled, cannot read voice description of undefined. 187. Well, let's see how useful my function is. Yeah, the sub entries. There's no good way to make that better. This is actually one of the other things that I wanted to do. So I'm going to check this right here just to see that my item is actually coming through. And then there was another bit of functionality I mentioned very early in this broadcast that I want to try. So we'll do that next to log my error messages, because then I don't even need to worry about going through the logs. It makes it much easier for me. So let's push this code up. I haven't actually made any changes to it, so we know it's going to break again, but at least now I'll be able to log what item I'm getting, if at all, because there's never a time where I should not get an item. All right. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello there. How may I be of assistance?
Give me a random droid.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction.
Alexa, quit.
But ooh.
Item without media. That's fine. So there was no media to find, which makes sense. I didn't provide any media. But my item without media that's coming back is nothing. So now we're going to need to do a little logging in my get random item by category. So this is where media is defined, and then random. Are we seeing that in the logs? Media is here. Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe I'm failing my call. Okay. So we're going to have to come back to that because I want to do the error logging thing while I'm here. So I have a place where I'm doing this already. Where am I doing that? where I push something in. It's where they... let's just find it, create. There it is. So I'm going to take these two lines, and we're going to come down to my error handler, just down here somewhere. Quiz, cancel, session ended, intent reflector, error. And so in here, this is where I actually want to log my errors. And this will make my life a lot easier for saving this. So let's go to Airtable, because I got to set a couple things up here. So I have character, but we're also going to have create an empty table called error. And this is just going to be record ID, because I don't really care about unique identifiers that are readable. So this will just bring in my record ID for that table. And then I'm going to want the we'll call this the, what is it called in code? The error.stack, so we'll call that the stack. And long text seems perfect. And then we'll need like a date time. This is another formula. Created date, created time, save. And so that has the date time records for these things. So now I have a table called error in my error database. And I can get rid of these records. Delete all selected records, great. And then in here, this is where I want, so I'm calling into my error database. And then in here, I'm going to say the error table. And in here, I'm going to call this the stack. And this is going to be all of this. All right, so that should just do it. So now I need to cause my error, and we should be able to see that record appear just with those two simple lines. At least that's my hope. Well, it's definitely not going to work because I have a missing parenthesis. So we'll push the code one more time. Okay, so I have my code there with the error. So now we'll ask for a random character. It'll break because my code is supposed to break, and we should just see a record show up in this table. So let's see if my error logging works. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
IMA L3XA, Human Cyborg Relations. I can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe, and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
Give me a random character.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction, but ooh. Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now.
Alexa, quit.
Thank you.
So what you can see there is that I was able to now log the specific error, and it'll just keep dumping these records in for me. And then one of the things that I can do to sort this is I can just come in and say sort this table 9 to 1. And what this will do is put the newest ones at the top. So every time I open this table, I'll be able to see the most recent errors that my skill has encountered without having to jump into the logs or any of the other stuff. Now, this doesn't show me all my other logging. So there are times where I'll still want to go into my logs. But I know that I'm having voice description errors because I'm not actually getting an object out of my database. So now that we're logging errors well, and that was pretty painless to do, what I want to do now is come back to this one, right? No, not trailer. This is the one we're in, right? Random item. So we're not actually getting our random item, and so I need to figure out what exactly it is we're doing wrong. And to do this, I'm going to have to jump off screen because we're going to be talking about API keys. And so I'm going to go into my CloudWatch where I'm actually logging this, and where did that go? Take this like this. I apologize that I can't do this on screen, but to talk to the API in a raw fashion where I'm actually just making URL calls directly into the database, this requires me to show my API keys, which I obviously don't want to do on screen. Table not found. Okay, what if we call it? That was the issue. Okay, cool. That's a simple issue. So coming back now that I've figured out what's wrong, is that if we go to my get random item by category, here I'm specifying a table and media. And it really looks like I'm doing the right stuff here. Like I am passing in the name of the table that I want. So am I passing the word data somehow? That seems to be what it thinks is happening, is I'm trying to refer to a table called data. Let me come up here to the top and look in here. These are the random types, but even that shouldn't matter because I'm saying character. So let's look a little more deeply at what my type is. Okay. So now I'm logging my type so I can at least see what I'm passing to it, because it's treating it as if the word I'm sending it is the word data. And I don't even know how that would necessarily happen. But let's take a look and see why it thinks that's happening. So we got to push a little code. We have 17 minutes left according to Mickey Mouse. See, he's got 17 minutes remaining. Can I see that if I look at the big camera? Boy, you really just can't see that as well. I feel like I might bring the old clock back because you can just see it better. I mean, I like Mickey, but I also want to be able to see it. All right. Can you guys see Mickey? Can you see the lit up numbers? It doesn't seem like it's very bright. I'm curious to know what you guys are seeing. So in the meantime, I'm going to run the skill. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello. I was expecting someone with your reputation to be a little older. What else can I provide information about?
Give me a random character.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction.
Alexa,
but ooh.
quit. Okay. My type is undefined. Well, that certainly shouldn't happen. Because type either is character or one of the random types. Actually, I don't even need this. Like, I should be able to do that. Shouldn't need a default value because I'm either going to resolve to something or I'm going to randomly pick one from my array of types. So there's never a time where it'll be empty. So we need to look at what resolve type is. One more console log. Resolved type equals, and I just JSON stringify everything now, because I find sometimes I forget to do it, and then it is a JSON object, and I end up losing it. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna have to stop a little bit early today. I didn't realize I had a meeting right at noon, but that's okay. We should be able to finish this for sure. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
There was a problem with the requested skills response.
Oh, yeah. Right there. Thanks for the warning, VS Code. Okay. Come on. Alexa, open Star Wars Databank. Nope, that's not going to work.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello there. What else can I provide
Alexa.
information about?
Give me a random character.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction.
Alexa,
but
stop.
ooh. May the Force be with you? Always?
Stringity. Goodness. Such simple little issues that just make things take longer than they need to. Okay, well, one more time. Alright, Carrie likes Mickey. Maybe Mickey will stay. I think the clock looks super cool. I just wish that the little countdown timer was brighter. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello.
Alexa,
I was
give me a random character.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction.
Alexa, stop.
But ooh. It's a trap.
Value.name, that's why. Okay. Value.name. Resolve media. Value.name. I figured it was something dumb. Okay, so we're now grabbing the right values. Let's try it one more time. It's a trapped exception. But you can see I'm filling up my my error table real nice. Right? All of these are funneling in here. And this is good for a number of reasons, but especially once you publish the skill, you can see where others are breaking your skill really easily. And I can even, in Airtable, set up triggers on this table to alert me via text message or a number of other things if I'm running into errors, so that I can try and quickly repair it. But the trigger stuff costs money. Like you have to pay for the service, but it's not expensive. And it's a monthly cost. It's like $10 a month or something. And that includes a whole bunch of stuff. That just happens to be the one bit of functionality I know I would use a lot. All right, one more time. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello there.
Alexa,
what else can I provide?
give me a random character.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction.
Alexa,
but
stop.
ooh. Go? I must. Before bitter and twisted I become.
Okay, we should have a very new error this time. Cannot read property voice description, and I still have these. Alright, so let's jump back here one more time and just see what the issue is. It's still trying to call the table data. I don't understand why that is. But at least, no, my type is still not defined. Make sure I'm in the right log and not looking at something old. Resolve type. Oh. Resolved media 0.value.name. Oh. This was dumb. This is what I had right here. I had value name. Nobody's pairing with me. Someone should have easily caught that I forgot that period. I blame all of you this time. Man, dumb mistakes. Maybe this time will work. Maybe this time we'll actually be able to pass an appropriate value. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello there. How may
Alexa,
I be of assistance?
give me a random character.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction.
Alexa, stop.
But ooh. May the force be with you? Always?
My type is still not defined. What am I doing wrong here? Resolve type dot value dot name. This is silly. Okay. What else could this possibly be? I can see in my log that I have my resolve type. This is the variable that comes back. And I have value.name as the thing that I'm asking it for. And I know that's in an array, but I'm referring to the array. Resolve type 0 dot value dot name. But when I get here, type is undefined. I don't think it's a lowercase n though, Carrie. I think it is a lowercase n. I was purposely leaving it a capital N because that's what I do with all of my database fields, but this isn't a database field. This is coming from Alexa. You have totally nailed it. Name. Yeah, that's going to be the issue. And then everything else should work. Thank you, Carrie. This is why we pair program together. You're my hero. Thank you. And we have 5 minutes left because I'm going to have to end a couple minutes early. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello. I was expecting
Alexa,
someone with your reputation.
Give me a random character.
Ooh, we had a slight weapons malfunction.
Alexa, stop.
But ooh. Goodbye, old friend.
So I have character now. I have no media, but now my item is still not coming back. I'm still having some issues with getting that random character, but I did get a character just too late, so I have a async issue. And I think it's this right here. Get random item. No, not that one. Get random item by category. This makes an async callout, right? Yeah, so I just need to await that. I think that's my issue. So here, get random item by category. This just needs to be awaited because otherwise I'm not waiting for the response. Oh, I'd love for this to work before we finish here. So for those of you who haven't played with a lot of async code, what's basically happening is I'm making a call out. I need to call my database. I need to get a record and bring it back. And so I have a set of things that are happening here, right? Like I go and I start grabbing values out of that and everything. It's doing the next stuff before I've gotten the thing back because I didn't tell it to wait. And that's what this await statement does. Is basically says, hey, hold on a second, just let me get the record back before you go do anything else. So this should hopefully solve that. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello there.
Alexa,
How may I be?
give me a random character.
I have chosen a character for you. Undefined, I can answer your questions about people and places in the Star Wars universe, and even vehicles, weapons, or droids. What would you like to know about?
Quit. So my guess here is that it grabs something that doesn't have any data, which is highly likely, right? I showed you guys earlier. I only have about 20%.
I have chosen a character for you.
Alexa, quit.
Undefined.
So it got Doom, who doesn't have a description yet. Okay, so we got it working. This is a data issue, which is something that I'm totally comfortable with, because we can fix that. So I can get rid of some of these console statements because we're working. And then probably don't need this either because I'm getting my item. The issue now is just that I don't have any data in the voice description, which is what's here. This is a cheap hack. I'm going to write that. This is a cheap, time-saving hack. Please fix. But I can do if item.fields.voice description undefined. Then item.fields.voice description I got nothing. Yeah, right. Equals item dot fields dot name and then unfortunately, like, find unfortunate. Yeah, unfortunately, no. Next, I've written an error statement like this before. All right, I really gotta go. Crawl trailer. This is a random item. So here. Okay, I'm gonna say the name of the thing I selected. I don't have any information about this, and then I can say character or whatever. I should say type. But my information is still being completed. My apologies. And then I have an action query that I defined up here. So I need to take that and put it on the end. And then down here, I've chosen a thing for you, plus action query. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So we'll give this one test, and then I really have to go. Alexa, open Databank for Star Wars.
Hello.
Alexa,
I was expecting...
give me a random droid.
I have chosen a droid for you. WA7. I don't have any information about this droid yet. My data is still being completed. My apologies. What else can I provide information about?
Cool. Awesome,
what
guys.
What else can I provide information about?
Alexa, quit. Alexa, stop. All right, so that's that. We've gotten to a point I think where everything's working. I have lots more data to enter. That's obviously always an issue. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in and joining me for a couple of hours. I'll be back here Wednesday and plan on being here on a pretty regular basis from now going forward. So thank you guys all for joining me. It was super fun, and I will see you all very, very soon. Bye bye.